Hey y'all, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Sandbox Love podcast. My name is Ayola Matty. Let's talk ball. The table is now set for Monday's finals. On the men's side, we have University of Houston versus Florida. And on the women's side, we have the mighty South Carolina Gamecocks versus UConn Huskies. We're going to talk about the women's side in the women's final before we get into the men. So on the women's side, we have UConn versus South Carolina. Um, you know, both Final Four games on Friday night were both entertaining, um, but but dominant for both teams. Um, South Carolina ended up beating Texas pretty handily, 74-57. Um, Joyce Edwards had a good game. Um, you know, Don Staley and the crew, they just keep it moving. They keep it moving, and after dominating Booker in Texas, they have UConn up next. And I think this is going to be a tougher matchup. Well, not think, I know it's going to be a tougher matchup for South Carolina. Um, I think the difference between this year's South Carolina team and, last year's and previous years is that they don't have the dominant player, right? UConn is entering this final with the hottest team and the hottest player, right? Paige Becker is the best player left in the tournament. And on top of that, too, Sarah Strong and the rest of the UConn Huskies now are playing the best ball collectively, right? Going into this final. Um, I think Sarah Strong neutralized Lauren Betts in the UCLA game, and I think Paige Becker, she didn't have to do too much as her teammates now played an exceptional game. They stepped up their game, and they beat the brakes off of UCLA. Um, UConn is the hottest team entering the final, as I said previous, and they have the best player. Um, both coaches will obviously, have their gals ready to play on Monday, but I think with Sarah Strong playing as strong as she is in the interior, I think that might be a little too much for South Carolina to deal with overall. Um, I know South Carolina, if you look at the teams that they've played in this tournament so far, they haven't been tested a whole lot. Um, you know, and at the end of the day, I think the UConn Huskies will definitely take advantage of that. Um, so my prediction for Monday's women's final is I think UConn is going to win the game. Um, I think they're going to do in a combination of ways. Um, I think obviously Paige Becker is going to have a good game, but she might not. But UConn, regardless of Paige Becker having a good game or not, I think Sarah Strong is actually playing the best on their team right now, and I think she will definitely get hers in the finals, as South Carolina may not have anybody to match up with Sarah Strong, right? So I have Sarah Strong as my X factor, and I have UConn prevailing and winning the women's national championship. On the men's side, it's a little bit more tricky. It's a little bit more dicey, especially after watching University of Houston's defensive performance last night. Um, as you already know, University of Houston upset at Duke last night, uh, 70-67. It was a well played game. Um, as I said in the previous pod, Kelvin Sampson, he leans on defense, and last night was no different. Um, they played an exceptionally well-rounded game. The fact that you held Duke to 70-67 points tells you the entire story. Um, Even though Cooper Flag had 27, Tugler played really well. And as a team, University of Houston's team defense was just exceptional. Anytime Cooper Flag even touched the ball, he seen two guys and he seen an entire team ready and help defense, right? So Um, they're definitely going to need that defense against Florida as well. Walter Clayton Jr. is playing like a madman possessed. He's a big time player. He's a single reason why they beat Auburn last night. Auburn started the game off really well. Florida had to come from behind. Their last two games, they've come from behind, so they're tested. Um, they've been here before, and if the game is anywhere close with a couple of minutes left, they know where the ball is going to, and Walter Clayton Jr. takes and makes big shots. He's not afraid of the moment, and he's built for it, right? He showed you last night. He had a timely and one. He had another timely three down the stretch that put some distance between them and Auburn. Last night's game was just exceptionally well played, right? Um, you didn't really have to call up or draw up a lot of plays down the stretch, as Walter Clayton just really just took over that game, right, and propelled Florida into the final. The Duke Houston game, some interesting calls down the stretch from the refs. Like both teams were battling it out, but the call down the stretch against Cooper was weak. A couple of other questionable calls, but University of Houston deserved it down the stretch. They deserved the victory, and Duke didn't score any baskets the last 6 minutes of the game, right? So when you're doing that, you don't deserve to win. University of Houston clamped down on defense. Um, they made the necessary in-game adjustments that a coach makes. Shout out Kelvin Sampson, and they deserve to upset Duke, and they deserve to be on Monday's final. Um, my prediction, I predict Florida to win. The reason why is because um, it's 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 hard to put together two back-to-back defensive games that University of Houston is going to need to win the national championship. It's one thing now to hold Duke to 67 points, but to ask for that again in the final against Florida, I think the University of Houston Cougars might run out of gas. But they do guard, and Calvin Sampson. If you're asking me, um, one coach that can pull anything and everything out of their players for one game, it would be Calvin Sampson for sure. The ultimate motivator, and he'll definitely have his guys ready to go. Right at the end of the day, this is for a national championship. You have all the days after this final to rest and to recover. He's telling his guys, leave it out on the floor, right? And shout out Coach Sampson. I believe him and Bruce Pearl won co-AP Coach of the Year. It's well deserved. Um, yeah. So this Monday's final is going to be really interesting. Really great games. And my predictions again, I have UConn winning on the women's side, and I have Florida winning on the men's side. But anything can happen, just like you seen last night. Shout out University of Houston. It's well deserved. Upset City, baby. This is why we watch the tournament. But again, this is just one man's opinion. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, share the content with a friend. Peace.